Good morning. Before we start, I just want to thank the universe, God, Spirit, my ancestors, my spirit team, also all the gods and goddesses that are helping me along the way, guiding me, and as well as my spiritual guides here in the 3D who have been helping me out. So today we're going to talk about how to heal your toxic attachment, the toxic relationship patterns, and why it's very important that you don't jump from one relationship to another immediately, because when that happens, what that normally means that it's an attachment. It's not love. It's not it's like it could be a trauma bond depending on the circumstance, but it definitely will not be a real connection, because you're basically you're not able to be alone. You're not comfortable being alone, so you need a relationship in order to feel good about yourself, to you're basically codependent. That's probably the right word. You're codependent on a relationship in order to function, and that means that's not a healthy relationship, because in a healthy relationship both parties should be healed and they should be both independent. Like there would be a good mixture of independence and dependence on each other. Like it'll be healthy. There'll be kind of a healthy mixture of both in that relationship. So that's why it's really, really important that you don't jump from one relationship to the next without doing the healing, without going through a period of time alone where you're actually actively processing those emotions, because there's no point in being alone if you're just suppressing the emotions and just shutting them down, keeping them suppressed, not dealing with it. This is what I did for about 4 years after one relationship kind of really went sideways, and I basically it was such a heartbreaking situation that I couldn't deal with the emotions. So what I did was like, okay, I don't want love, I don't want this, I don't want anything. So I never dealt with the pain, which meant that when I did find after that long period of time, when I did find someone that I connected with, I fell back into the sort of initially I was avoidant. I'd basically run away because I was afraid. And then when I started overcoming that initial fear, then I became anxiously attached. And that's a really messy situation to be in. My recommendation is, if you're not familiar with attachment styles, really go and educate yourself. This is basically what I did after a breakup. I went into this deep research into why people act like that. Why do I act like that? Why do others act like that? Because it's especially with avoidance, it's a pattern that I've noticed in pretty much all of my relationships, because anxiously attached individuals tend to there's like a really awful symbiotic relationship between anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. They basically are drawn to each other and they make each other's lives hell, because neither of them both of them trigger each other a lot, and they cannot find a common ground. The anxiously attached person wants to spend a lot of time together, wants constant reassurance, whereas the avoidantly attached person needs a lot of time alone to, you know, just be by themselves. And that can feel like rejection to the anxiously attached. And the anxiously attached can kind of attack the avoidant, and that kind of confirms the avoidant's fears that you know, love equals pain, or love equals drama, and they shut down even more. So it's like a vicious cycle. If you want to learn more about that, I have a couple of recommendations. One is a website called Simply Psychology. Simply Psychology. It's really, really good. I love it. It breaks things down in a really simple way, and it's really formatted very well, and you can trust. I mean, you can't use it in the research articles because they kind of don't like that, but although I have sneakily used it a couple of times. But it is absolutely wonderful if you're just looking to get a, you know, idea. There's also I think it's called Medium, and it requires a subscription, but it's not a large amount. And also there are a lot of really good articles there. There's also on YouTube, there's someone called Jimmy Knowles. I'll write all of this in the description so you can check it out. I'll put the links on there. He is amazing. He really goes into depth about avoidance, narcissism, in general, like how to make healthy relationships work. So I highly recommend him. And he also is his videos actually helped me learn a lot about narcissism, and even helped me understand I learned about covert narcissism for the first time from him, and because of his videos I understood that actually my mother is a covert narcissist, which made it, you know, that was such an eye-opening moment for me. Yeah, because there are two types of narcissists. There's a covert and a grandiose type. So yeah, check, these are really good links. Also, I recently started using this app called Nibble, which basically has like, it's like a social media app for psychology, and it has like bite-sized lessons on different aspects of psychology. So if you're interested, that's also like, so far I like it. Yeah, that's all I've got at the moment. If I remember any more, I'll add it later. So I talked about yeah, so let me talk a bit more about attachment styles. So what happens is, when you're a child, you form an attachment style to your primary caregiver, whoever that person is. It could be your mother, father, could be another family member, it could be you know, like a foster parent. Whoever is your primary caregiver, you form a type of attachment to them. The healthy attachment is the secure type, and that's when the child or the infant's needs are consistently met. So if they cry, they're comforted. If, you know, they're not neglected, they're not ignored. And because there is that trust between the mother and the child, the caregiver and the child feels secure, that so it feels like it can explore the world around it safely, and it knows that if it encounters something sort of threatening, it can come back and to the caregiver as a safe haven. and a secure base. So it's the caregiver is a secure base from which the child can explore the environment around them, and also a safe haven to return to when if it encounters something. I don't know, if maybe a stranger walks into the room and the child sort of feels like, oh my god, I don't know who this is, so I can go back. And the mother, sorry, I keep saying mother because in the classical experiments that they did, that's how it was. So they kind of brought the caregiver will secure, make them feel safe, and that forms a template for all other relationships, including relationships with in your adult relationship, like with your partner. And that template is so important. And it's when this doesn't happen, when there's insecure attachment, that you then form mother wounds, father wounds, and this can go on to really mess with your relationship and cause so many problems. And even worse, it also, because if you don't do the work, if you don't kind of educate yourself, go to therapy, work through the things with your partner, and heal those wounds, this then becomes, you start to create those same wounds in your child when you have your own children. And this is how that generational trauma kind of perpetuates, because you kind of internalize that model and normalize it. So for example, if your parent doesn't comfort you, just neglects you when you're upset, you learn to shut down emotionally. You learn not to show emotion because it's met with either neglect or just like impatience, and you learn to that it's not safe to show your emotions. That's basically avoidance. That's how I felt all the time. Like so then because that's what you know, when you're looking for a partner, you subconsciously attract the same type, because the attraction is based on familiarity and comfort, not real connection or love. You are attracted to what you're familiar with, even if that familiarity is to something toxic, because you don't know it's toxic, it's subconscious. And that's when things get really dangerous. And that's why self-awareness and education is really necessary. That's the whole point of me doing this, because I learned all of this during because of my relationship trauma, and then me doing the psychology master's degree and really helped with that. And I also was always drawn to attachment theory and like childhood trauma and how that impacts later life. So this was kind of something that I had kind of been interested in. I'd been drawn to this, and then when this relationship broke down, I also looked into this in great detail. I started, because I noticed a pattern in my relationships, this pattern of avoidance, and I didn't know, I kind of wanted to understand why this pattern was happening. So I just started reading about it, and it all tied in, and I understood how childhood styles impact avoidance. And then I actually ended up selecting this topic for my dissertation, which increased my knowledge even more. So I'm sort of like became sort of, I wouldn't say an expert, but a lot more educated than I was before. So this so it's actually your nervous system that's so used to the chaos, so used to having to earn love, or it's not even understanding what unconditional love is, because that's what a parent is supposed to provide. That's what a secure relationship between a parent and a child looks like. It should be unconditional love, but unfortunately, especially if the parent also has unhealed trauma and unhealed mother and father wounds, they are basically acting out the same scenarios. Like, I've talked about this before, I don't want to keep repeating myself. And it just perpetuates that vicious cycle. And this is where a lot of conflict comes in, when you're in a relationship and you kind of, your partner and your mother doesn't get along, or it's usually like a male partner's like a female partner and the mother-in-law issues. Same thing with the when it's sort of father versus daughter, son-in-law. It's like the same-sex issue, and unfortunately that's related to narcissism again, because of this this golden child and narcissist mother, that dynamic where sort of there's that Freudian thing between the like a mother and this male, the son, and the father and the daughter, and that all that, the Oedipus complex, and the, I think the female version is Europa? Is it Europa? Or is it? I can't remember. But look into this. It is there, and it does make things a lot more complicated. And it's almost like the mother is in competition. The mother sees the daughter-in-law as the competition, and the father sees the son-in-law as a competition, and it's really like messed up. It might not be conscious, it may be just subconscious, but because they haven't healed those wounds, it causes a lot of conflict. And I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this, who are in relationships or have had relationships, will resonate with this stuff. And unfortunately, I think insecure attachment is a lot more common than secure attachment. And especially if you pair up an avoidant and anxious, forget it. It's a horrendous situation where they kind of make each other worse and make each other's issues worse. Like the anxiously attached person will feel even worse off in their anxiety, and the avoidant will become even more avoidant as their way of coping, because it's like it's what they're used to. They're not trying to be toxic, but because they don't know better, this is how it is. But that's why we're trying, this is how personality disorders come into play. You start to have severe dysfunction, because all of this, there's avoidant personality disorder, there's narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and all of this, I mean, the point at which this becomes a disorder that's characterized by the DSM is when it becomes starts to significantly impair your life. But it's a spectrum, as everything in psychiatry is a spectrum, and the only way to move forward is actually educate yourself, take accountability, learn to recognize the toxicity, and start to do the inner work that's uncomfortable but really, really necessary. Start therapy, especially start therapy with your partner, family therapy. It's really important to validate each other. And also, your relationship should be between the two of you. Your parents, your friends, they shouldn't have a say in your relationship. That is something, a boundary you need to set, because you need to realize that you're not a child anymore. You're an adult, and your parents may not see you that way. They may still try to treat you like a child and try to tell you what to do and to have too much control over your life. But you need to set healthy boundaries. You need to make your partner the priority, because they're the person you're spending your life with. Yes, it's important to respect your parents, but you need to also put down firm boundaries, because your relationship should be between just the two of you. Other people around shouldn't interfere in your relationship. And it's something sacred between the two of you. And you should support each other. Like, one thing that I've seen in my family with my parents is that my father, basically my father's family used to really emotionally abuse my mother, and he wouldn't stand up for her. He would just basically keep silent. Or he would actually tell her, oh, they're old, you should forgive, you should be the bigger person and forgive. That's not support. That is him taking sides against her. So that's what I mean. That's not okay. That's not a healthy way to go. I think I'm going to leave it there. It's a bit shorter, but I mean, that's all I've got to say at the moment. Actually, since it is shorter, let's do some tarot. No, I'll do the tarots in a separate video.